Hi yoga friends, it is Melissa here. So I got a really great email from Michelle asking some awesome questions that have actually been asked by quite a few of you. So I wanted to do a short video on one of the portions of the question and address the two other portions later, and maybe this will bring up some other things, how we can kind of collectively help each other in our group with the collective experience of getting to the mat before the day begins. So this video is going to address logistics, right? So basically answering how do you get into a regular and consistent routine, and what are some ways that you can set yourself up for success with regards to that? Sorry, it's the Instapot. Okay, so logistically, a month's trajectory of practice will, in its fullest manifestation, look like 2 weeks where you're practicing 6 days a week with a 24-hour recovery period and one 45-hour, recovery period. And then the other 2 weeks would be the moon day weeks, where you would have either an extra 24-hour recovery period or a 45-hour recovery period. Similarly, for women, you take 3 days off for your cycle. You know, it's your practice. You have to do what's best for you. I really encourage you guys to rest around your cycle, taking more rest, if anything, and subbing your bandha practice for like a nice walk or some extra sleeps and maybe some light hip stretching. If there's any questions around what a moon day practice could look like, I have a really good structure that I'd be happy to videotape and send along too. So just let me know in Zoomshala or in the emails. So if you are a gentleman practicing and you need to observe a little bit more rest with your cycles, that is generally observed by a lot of my male colleagues and fellow practitioners around the new and the full moons. So for example, if you realize, around the full moon, I get a little, little less energy, you would just take a rest day before and a rest day after, or just the 2 days off, depending on the needs of your body and for your mental health as well. And a lot of folks too will just observe the whole weekend as rest, right? Being with your family, letting yourself sleep in, rest, rejuvenate, recover. And that's a totally legal move too, and encouraged if that feels like it's going to be part of your routine or your flow. So that's just kind of a structural framework of how, a month's practice could go, and if you are doing a full practice in a man's body, you would be doing 22 days of practice in a month that has 30 days. And if you were in the female body, you would be practicing 19 days. And then if we would use the pronoun of them or us or whatever body you're in, you could just dial back from there, depending on what your needs are in any given month or any given chunk of time. Some practitioners really like to divide it up into semesters, right? So looking at that practice in semester framing and reflecting back. I touch base with Angela every semester and talk a little bit about my practice and where I'm at with my mental health and my physical health, what I feel like the yoga is telling me, and really making those endings and beginnings very clear, because we are doing a longer term practice. And while we are masters of monotony is a little intense sometimes. And that's a really good way to kind of, keep it alive, keep it interesting, because it is so interesting, this yoga stuff. So talking about kids and dogs, what I found is that over time they just kind of adjust to your routine. And I think that this is a little bit of a privileged scope, because I only have a dog and a cat, and you guys have witnessed my cat B. He's a little bit clingy, but he's also, can be removed off of my lap. So I think this would be a really cool thing for Jess and Elsa to chime in on, because I think you guys have both done a really great job at, in your steadiness, creating a routine structure, albeit with a couple of door forts and banging down of doors for our younger kids. So maybe we could have you guys chime in and talk a little bit about what's kept you steady and consistent with the added addition of new friends into the mix of practice who really want to be with you just for the attention piece. And also having a demanding career. So Michelle, I think you've done a really great job at creating a consistent practice for yourself with a very demanding career, lots of hours and heady hours at that. So maybe we could have you chime in at some point and give us a little bit of feedback about how you've created that consistency for yourself. Because both of those experiences are ones that I haven't had on the ground. I've had conversations with friends and colleagues, but haven't had them personally. So I'd love to hear, how you've developed that for yourself. And then one of the things that I can speak on directly is social media and devices before practice. So I noticed that if I'm on Instagram or Facebook before practice, my mind does get a little jumpy, but I've tailored my feeds to create, like, it's mostly just like puppies and people doing yoga and saying positive things. I'm not looking at politics or anything that's going to get me, feeling unfocused and maybe a little something called rajastic or like angry. So I've kind of tailored that energy of my social media mostly for my morning practice, so I can really work on cultivating that positive energy to bring it with me throughout the day, being mindful of my mental diet. But I can't do that with emails, because whatever's coming at me, it might be something from a mama or, who knows what lands in an inbox. So I think people with demanding careers have to really monitor that for themselves and just begin to notice, what gets your mind spinning, what gets your wheels spinning. And if those things happen to be social media or your email before practice, can it wait? Can it wait until after your practice? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. I'm sure there's extenuating circumstances that I'm not thinking of right now. But if it can wait, give yourself that 45 minutes, that hour and a half. You deserve it. You deserve to be with your breath and your body and with your yoga practice that you love so much. And also, last but not least, a little coffee goes a long way. So those of us who imbibe in the caffeine, recently I've taken my caffeine level down quite a bit with the occasional indulgence every so often. And what I've found is that, as my body's adjusted to less caffeine, especially less caffeine before practice, that my energy is a little bit steadier and my mind is less bouncy, which would make sense. If you find that you have to have a lot of caffeine before practice, it may be time to start to integrate some extra rest days into your routine until you can kind of figure that out, because we really don't want to be mediating the yoga practice with a ton of caffeine to have this, rajastic experience, because eventually the caffeine doesn't work anymore and the adrenals start to burn out. And, that's if that's ever happened to you or if that's currently happening to you, I haven't spotted it at all, but I know you guys are very self-reliant, autonomous students. So I'd be happy to share my experience and how I've gotten over those humps too for you guys. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much if you've made it this far in the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your practices, and I will see you in the AM. Namaste.